The other thing that you must also be aware of in terms of understanding threads is what are called reentrant or thread-safe functions, right? It's all an extract from the documentation. A reentrant method is one that can be called simultaneously by multiple threads, provided no two invocations of the method attempt to reference the same data. So if a function can be called by many threads exactly at the same time, and we are guaranteed that that function will not try to access variables or pointers that are being shared across those invocations, then we are fine. That's a reentrant function. So we are guaranteed that there's no risk of this execution modifying something and then this one picking up the latest value, and then now there's a whole mishmash of things because it's being updated here and then being used here and then being updated by this one and then being used by that one. We are 100% sure that each invocation to a function does not access any data, that they don't share data at all. So they can be executed at the same time with no problems. That's a reentrant function, so it's safe to do so. A thread-safe method can be called simultaneously by multiple threads at any time because any shared data is protected somehow, e.g. by using Q-matrix. Now, a thread-safe function is saying it's possible for those functions to share data, but we've got measures in place to make sure that even though they are sharing, nothing will go wrong. So there's sometimes locking mechanisms that are used, for instance, to protect, let's say they are sharing an integer, right, called X. You would then put code around that integer that makes sure that it can only be read by one thing at a time. So if one thread is accessing it, the other ones are prevented from accessing that variable until the one is finished. So those are now locking mechanisms that are used to make sure that all shared data is nicely protected. So we don't have a risk of this one is reading it, but at the same time it's being updated, and then another one is also reading at the same time. So now you get the behavior of the application becomes unpredictable because you don't know what happens. So a thread-safe function simply means that, yes, data can be shared, but it's protected, or there's a mechanism in place to make sure that there is no simultaneous access to that data. So a class is reentrant or thread-safe if all of its non-static functions are reentrant or thread-safe. So as long as all your functions are thread-safe or reentrant, then your class is thread-safe. So reentrant means no shared access to data or no data sharing between functions. Thread-safe means data sharing is allowed, but there's no simultaneous access to that shared data. So these are some of the theory questions you can get on threads that you guys will have to know about.